September 11th. We'll first start with the Pledge of Allegiance and then just a quick moment of silence for September 11th.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if we could just take one quick moment. Okay, so first we have on the docket, we have public comment. If anybody is here to speak, outside of the public hearing, we will have actually another public comment at that time for that site. But if anybody would like to comment about anything else, this is a great time to come on up.
Do I have a public comment on the open house thing?
That will be a separate public comment, yeah. Yes, perfect. All right, so we'll go ahead and close public comment, and then
Yes.
we have our treasurer, Schostak,
Yes.
taking over the reins today.
So my first big task here as treasurer will be to collect the tax payments, which are due this Thursday, September 14th, 5:30 p.m. in our office. We do not accept postmarks. Has to be in our hands by 5:30 on September 14th, and we're still missing a lot of them. So hope we'll see you this week.
I'm
Thank
the
you.
one who waits till the 14th.
That's okay.
I have it ready to go. You'll get it on the 14th.
Okay.
Did mine electronic, so I sure hope you got that.
go.
No postmark.
Perfect. So next we have approve the board minutes of August 28th. We've all had a chance to look them over. Unless there's any changes, I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Murray.
Support.
Support by trustee Barnett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That passes. Next, we have consider approval of the proclamation designating September 11th through 17th as Patriot Week in Bloomfield Township. And we're going to have the treasurer present.
Thank you. This is a very meaningful subject to me, so I prepared a couple comments before I read the resolution. It's hard to believe that the 9/11 attacks were 22 years ago this morning. That day started out like any other fall Tuesday morning, but very quickly became a day that forever altered the lives of 3,000 people and their loved ones. And indeed, it's a day that none of us will ever forget. For me, that day changed the trajectory of my career. As a new college graduate, I was just beginning to work in business, but after that day decided to find a job in national security, which led me to move to Washington, D.C. and become a civilian contractor at the Pentagon. I was there at the Pentagon on the first anniversary of the attack, where we once again mourned the loss of so many innocents and rededicated the E-ring of the Pentagon, which had been completely reconstructed by that first anniversary. And tonight, I'm wearing the pin given out to those in attendance to memorialize that day. It's a Pentagon-shaped pin with the words, "United in Freedom," engraved on it. I think that's why our annual commemoration of Patriot Week is so important. It serves as an annual remembrance of that devastating attack, which took the lives of 3,000 people that day, and many more since, with the lingering health effects plaguing so many first responders who selflessly worked at ground zero. It is also a reminder that despite our cultural and political differences, all of us as Americans are united in freedom and endowed by our Creator with the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Patriot Week idea was hashed by a local middle schooler, Leah Warren, who has seen this initiative grow each year since starting in 2009. So it is my honor to make a motion to adopt the following resolution, a proclamation designating September 11th through 17th as Patriot Week in Bloomfield Township. Whereas Bloomfield Township has traditionally joined countless jurisdictions and organizations across this great state and nation in recognizing September 11th through 17th as Patriot Week. And whereas the United States Senate and the Michigan Senate adopted resolutions to recognize Patriot Week. And whereas throughout our country's history, people in our great state and nation have worked together to both preserve and expand freedom and liberty for all Americans. And whereas America has endured through times of turmoil and peace, carrying our nation through the darkest days of history and strengthening our commitment to the ideals upon which our country was founded. And whereas in great reverence to the victims of the attacks on September 11, 2001, and recognition of the signing of the Constitution on September 17, 1787, Patriot Week is a time to celebrate the principles set forth by our founding fathers, as well as the countless patriots, vital documents, speeches, and other symbols that helped make America the great nation it is today. And whereas a deepening appreciation for those ideals will help guarantee America's spirit of freedom and liberty. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Bloomfield Township Board of Trustees hereby designates September 11th through 17th, 2023 as Patriot Week. We encourage all residents to renew their appreciation and understanding of America's spirit and reflect on the importance of patriotism to America's past, present, and future.
I second the motion.
We have a motion by Treasurer Schostak.
Support.
Oh, sorry. You seconded?
I did.
Okay.
Okay.
Second by Clerk
Third.
Wright, but I
Sorry.
think general overall support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Michael.
Michael,
Thank you.
for sharing
Sure.
as well. So next we have on deck, we have the public hearing to consider the approval of a site plan and special land use request for Oakland Hills Country Club, 3951 West Maple Road. First, we'll start with Director of PBO, our Patti Voelker, and then we'll have the applicants come on up.
Then we have public comment.
And then after you hear both, then public comment.
Well, thank you and good evening. So tonight we do have a site plan for and special land use request for Oakland Hills Country Club. Specifically, it's the south course that we're going to be focusing on. And so as we're familiar with the location, it is the area defined by our location map, primarily stemming from Oak Hills Drive on the westerly edge and nearly extending over to Lasser Road, although you can see in the red hash that it is slightly less than that because of the single-family homes fronting on Maple and Lasser, and also the commercial that's right at the intersection. To the south, to the area that we're focusing on, it's zoned R2 single family, and in the zoning ordinance, a clubhouse or club use, country club use, is considered a special land use within the R2 district. Therefore, we'll be reviewing the proposal as it relates to the standards for a country club in the R2 district, and also the criteria relating to dimensional dimensional requirements from the R2 district. And majority of the improvements that you're going to be hearing about tonight is primarily the operational or the operations that we're more familiar with along West Maple Road. So the parking area, the location of the new clubhouse, and extending then easterly to include the new Grounds and Greens building, which is the former environmental and maintenance operations. That is the focus of much of the review tonight, that will be speaking to the elements of a site plan, also what variances were necessary. And again, keeping in mind, this is a use that's falling within our single-family zone district provisions. So when we speak to the special land use criteria specific to a clubhouse, I'm utilizing this overall site plan just to identify those standards and speak to those more specifically. My presentation to you tonight is going to focus primarily on the standards for a special land use, the standards for site plan review, the process that the proposal took as it relates to this particular use and our required public hearings, and then the team comprised of the Oakland Hills Country Club group has a very thorough presentation, and I don't want to be redundant, but I really want to focus on the consideration that the board's going to be asking as it relates to the approval that they're seeking pursuant to the site plan and special land use standards. So that is a little commercial. So in looking at the overall site plan and the standards for a special land use, I'll focus on the first is that primarily it's a activity that's falling within the West Maple Road frontage, and the first speaks to when it's adjacent to residential that there needs to be a 200-foot separation from a structure that falls within the country club and an adjacent residential property. That Oakland Hills Country Club owns this residential lot. They are providing a 50-foot setback from that lot line to the new Greens and Grounds building, But in essence, they are providing 200 feet because the adjacent residential lot with the neighborly to the east is 200 feet. So that was a variance that they had to seek before the Zoning Board of Appeals. The other criteria speaks to having a ingress-egress from a right-of-way of 120 feet, which is satisfied by West Maple. And then lastly, having to do with the location, the general layout, and its improvements as it relates to the residential areas, so as to make sure that there is, adequate protection and architectural issues or landscape issues and so forth. And so as we speak a little bit further into our review, we'll kind of touch on those highlights, but at least relevant to that standard, just wanted to highlight that, we're very familiar with this location because they are intending to maintain the existing ingress-egress, the boulevard entrance off of West Maple Road where the Gilbert Lake traffic light is. And then from that point, they've made some improvements in the parking lot. The configuration of the clubhouse, which is approximately 110,000 square feet, is in the former location. They've improved the circulation by adding actually an internal access drive that's running parallel to West Maple Road. And they're also adding additional parking, especially for the valet operation. And here's a 72-space parking lot that is internal to the site. And then going farther easterly and that service drive continuing, you'll see that these curb cuts, which are the existing curb cuts, are being improved to comply with the Oakland County Road Commission standards that primarily is looking for more of an operational access and then leads to the new Greens and Grounds building. So the various accessory structures that comprised of those operations are all being consolidated within an existing, or within a new building. And again, that residential lot is over here. Another feature within this proposal that has been of much conversation is it was identified there was fencing, existing fencing on the south course. And so through the design review, the board, the planning commission, even the ZBA, conversation led to with the removal of the barbed wire from the existing chain link fence, then leading to what's the ultimate goal for the frontage of along West Maple and also on the adjacent residential streets, that the applicant is proposing a fence plan that intends to remove all of the chain link fencing, including the barbed wire fencing, on the premises by the time the certificate of occupancy is sought for the new clubhouse. But as you'll hear a little bit further when we speak to the Design Review Board and the ZBA actions, that at the time that this was being developed, they actually sought a variance for some of the fencing that, should it be replaced, that it would be more decorative style. So I'll touch on that a little bit later. But at least in focusing on West Maple, that frontage has been, and you'll see in the landscape plan, is intended to be enhanced, and they are actually proposing new evergreen screening from Oak Hills all the way through to the end of the subject property, consisting of either an 8-foot arborvitae shrub, tree, or a 10 to 12-foot Norfolk pine screen along Maple, primarily in the Greens and Grounds location, and then wrapping around to the south, adjacent to that single-family home. So the impression, if you will, in meeting that standard is that they really have enhanced the overall appearance and that presence, if you will, especially from the adjoining residential and the abutting residential, with that intended improvement. To consolidate the comments and looking at the various sections of the site plan, this is focusing on the westerly portion that speaks to the new country club footprint. It's identifying the parking lot that has been parking lot layout, which has improved. In this particular screen, you're seeing that they are proposing 253 parking spaces adjacent to the clubhouse. We refer to that as the clubhouse parking area. But that, coupled with the 72 parking spaces that are for, in the valet area, and then also the 26 parking spaces that are found around the Greens and Grounds building, they're providing a total of 351 parking spaces on paved surfaces. They also have a paved lot on the north side containing 99 paved surfaces. So combining those two paved surfaces, which they're allowed to provide even off-site, they are in compliance with the parking requirements for this clubhouse. The new internal drive is for services, for access, primarily for the valet operations and also for the maintenance operations. But there obviously is some points of ingress and egress that does accommodate for their valet operations, not intending to provide any additional ingress and egress for the membership. Primarily that's being featured with their main entranceway. On top of the proposal, there are all the internal pedestrian and cart paths that are being proposed, so that circulation is not necessarily vehicular, but it's also a very comprehensive plan has been presented and will be presented to you in the upcoming presentation, having to do with the safety of vehicular traffic and pedestrian traffic, and then golfers and golf carts. The landscape plan, so now we're seeing how they have met some of the comments, and they're providing that evergreen screening along that westerly edge. But taking a moment on this slide, it does also comply with the requirement of our tree replacement requirements of the zoning ordinance. So the trees that are being removed are also being provided on site on the various fields, whether it's in this parking area or the valet parking or the Greens and Grounds. And the other landscaping that's being proposed are all enhancements to the site and found to be certainly a improvement to the proposal. Michael J. Dool and Associates did review the proposal. You find it in your report, and they found that they conclude that the proposal does comply with all the provisions of the zoning ordinance. There are details that the applicant can speak to a little more specifically with their selection and their intent, but they're primarily looking to make sure it's screened adequately from the residential or the public side, but at the same time softening some of those elevations also from their internal membership side. And again, here is a detail of where the arborvitae are stopping at that curb cut that's being replaced, and then the Norfolk pines are wrapping around. All of those are being taken into consideration as it relates to the requirements for the screening of public parking. As a result of much of the conversation that occurred relevant to the chain link fence and the removal of the chain link fence, they've added a revision that was added as a result of the removal of the chain link fence along Lasser Road to propose a row of burning bush shrubs along this area to also integrate within the remaining trees that may result. And this was also a part of the review by Michael J. Dool. And then lastly, here's the fence plan, and this kind of sums up what their intentions are. So they're acknowledging that the fences are being removed on all of their frontages, which is called out on the plan. Should there be an election to add fencing in addition to the vegetative screening that was along Maple Road, that would result in approaching the Design Review Board for approval of a landscape plan, and also having to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals because it's a fence within the frontage. So depending on what decision that may be result at the end, at the conclusion of some discussions with their board, that could very well be a future step, if you will, if that's determined. But upon application to the Zoning Board of Appeals, with some of the variances that I'll touch on, it was identified that with the removal of the chain link fence along Oak Hills, along a portion of Oak Drive and Lasser, that if there was the intent to, that it was intended to replace it with a decorative screening, that they did show some elements of what their intentions were. They just didn't have a final plan. So this is what was presented to the Design Review Board and followed up with the addition and conclusion of a variance being granted. But that final selection, that final determination would be a decision that would be brought before the Design Review Board. So that, for kind of concluding that there will be some future opportunity to discuss fencing at a later date, depending on what course the Oakland Hills Country Club Board would like to take. If I could go back to the site plan for a minute, and the overall site plan. Because this is zoned R2 single family, and because the R2 single family was really intended to look at residential development, so housing is cannot exceed 30 feet in height. You can't have fences in the front yard. Anything that's beyond the principal residence is an accessory use or accessory structure. Well, that's no different in this request before you. The country club itself is considered the primary use. Any other use or structure is then considered accessory. So, as we understand that the operation really is looking and focusing on a northerly exposure along the West Maple frontage. So the new gate and guard shack and gate, that's an accessory structure in the front yard. So that's one of the elements that had to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. With the improvement to the lifestyle building, former First Tee building, with the dumpster enclosure and the compactor and a masonry wall for screening, those are all accessory uses and structures that are in the front yard. That had to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And with the new drive and the access lane, service drive, if you will, that is parallel to West Maple, the reconfiguration of the existing paddleball courts, with that change, that resulted in seeking a variance as well. And then as you look at the improvements that are occurring around the Greens and Grounds building, there's some outdoor storage, there's a fuel station, there's some ground-mounted mechanicals, both related to the new building and also found, adjacent in this area. Those are accessory structures in the front yard. And then even speaking to the two buildings I just mentioned, the Greens and Grounds building, that's an accessory structure. The maximum height is 14 feet. They're coming in at 20 feet. That was another variance that they had to seek. And then the lifestyle building, they made a modification to one of the elevations by modifying the roof line. Well, that new construction has to meet the current code, and that roof line is actually 25 feet, where 14 is an accessory structure maximum height. So that it helps to explain and look at the intention of how we reviewed and how we determined the compliance of this project with the overall scope of the R2 single-family zone district, and then the nature of the variances that were sought. Michael J. Township Traffic Engineer Fishbeck did have an opportunity to review the site plans and the revised site plans as they have been submitted to the township, and finding that it was clearly noting that there's very little change that's occurring with the proposal, with the location of the clubhouse in its current location, maintaining the main entrance drive, improving the locations of the two existing curb cuts, and providing that service drive internally. The conclusion was that the proposal does comply with the intended circulation pattern and safety concerns, and also that there was no impact on West Maple Road with this proposal, and identifying that the benefit of the internal circulation clearly is a benefit overall for the general area. So I mentioned that the building height was a comment that, or building height is something that we had to address relating to the R2 zone district. Well, 30 feet is the height of a residential home. At that point, we're measuring from the midpoint. So even with the clubhouse and the elevations that you see, we're taking an average of all elevations to determine what the maximum height is. And this actually came in, excuse my notes here. At 44 feet, where the average maximum could be 30 feet. We did find some of our historical records that the former clubhouse may have been measured to a maximum of 40 feet. So it's in close range, if you will, to the former clubhouse. And then some of the elements that you're going to hear a little bit later, but just because the architectural design, the benefit of some of the nuances that are being proposed with the new clubhouse and also their service operations, here's an instance where they chose to have some of the mechanical units not necessarily ground mounted, which led to additional screening, but actually they have a recessed area on the roof that would accommodate some of the mechanicals for the new building, and it's identifying, in this instance, that it may have led to, why the height of the structure was at that 44 average building height. And here's the illustration of that portion of the new roof for the lifestyle building. Even though it's, looking at something that's maybe less than what was previously there, still anytime we have new construction, it always has to meet the current code. So we did have to call this out. The Greens and Grounds building, a low-profile building intended to really blend away, if you will, with the materials that you'll see a little bit later. But this is has a maximum height of 20 feet. The ordinance does allow for up to 14 feet, so it is looking to that lower height, more of a service height, if you will, for an accessory structure or use. The proposal does identify and include a photometric plan for the entire portion along West Maple Road. So the photometric plan does not spill onto any adjoining property. It does provide a review of the types of lighting, both from parking lot light fixtures to more of the decorative light fixtures around the buildings themselves. Those that are much more decorative around the clubhouse, and those a little bit more utilitarian for the Grounds and Greens building. All of those light fixtures and locations are in compliance. And the very traditional light poles that we're familiar with in parking lots is intended to be ground illuminating only, not intending to be visible, the light source be visible with the selection and the configuration of the lighting on in the parking fields. The materials, the architect's team will go through, but they're more traditional materials that they'll address. And then, you do have the elevations that, and they too will go through much more detailed review of the materials, the intent, the operations, and even the intention for the public and also the service flow of the property. But just to call out, this proposal was reviewed by the various township departments. Engineering and Environmental Services reviewed their comments, found that they were satisfactory to proceed with to the Planning Commission and Township Board. The plans were also reviewed by the engineering consultants, HRC. They too have provided a report that found that they were sufficient to be able to proceed for site plan review. There will be a engineering plan submission upon Township Board approval, that would be submitted prior to a building permit application. The fire department was part of the review process as well. They were very involved in the review of the plans, identifying hydrant spacing, fire truck turning radius plans, overhang clearances, no parking signage, and so forth. And they found that the plan as presented was satisfactory to come before the Township Board. And the police department had no objections or concerns relevant to the site plan. So this project did go before the Design Review Board on August 2nd. That was then forwarded on unanimously to the Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals. At that time, that was the beginning of the conversation about the chain link fence, and their recommendation was that the chain link fence needs to be replaced with decorative fencing or eliminate it around the perimeter of the property, and also that there need to be a submission of a revised landscape plan with the Norfolk pines along that frontage by the Greens and Grounds building to be increased in height up to 10 to 12 feet in height at time of planting, and that has been reflected in the revised landscape plan. This then went on to the Planning Commission on August 8th, and after review, the Planning Commission did forward on a recommendation to the Township Board highlighting the comments by the departments and the traffic engineer and the landscape architect, identifying that those improvements along Maple Road would require review and approval by the Road Commission, acknowledging that this had to move on to the Zoning Board of Appeals to seek those necessary variances, and then reiterating that should there be a final design of that metal decorative replacement fencing along Oak Hills or Oakland Drive, then within 12 months they need to submit for review and approval as part of that proposal at that time. So then it went on to the Zoning Board of Appeals on August 8th, and during that discussion and review, there is a motion that itemizes, if you will, the various variances that I spoke to that resulted in a unanimous approval by the Zoning Board of Appeals. So it summarizes that there are accessory structures that had to go, that had to seek approval as permission requests, but there also were dimensional variances that had to be sought, and those are itemized, and I think I've covered all of those in my brief presentation relevant to the fact that we're applying single-family zoning standards and dimensional standards to a clubhouse operation. So lastly, I just wanted to summarize for the Township Board, and I'll be happy to answer any questions following, that tonight the applicant is seeking your consideration based on the Planning Commission's recommendation, the action by the Zoning Board of Appeals, to consider under what conditions site plan and special land use approval may be granted for the new clubhouse and the South Course improvements located at 3951 West Maple Road, subject to the following: compliance with the requirements of the Township departments, compliance with the requirements of the Township's traffic engineer, compliance with the requirements of the Township's landscape architect, review and approval of the improvements in the West Maple Road right-of-way by the Road Commission of Oakland County, submission of a design review board application for the final design of a 6-foot decorative metal replacement fencing along Oak Hills Drive and Oakland Drive, should that be pursued, and then submission of a design review board and zoning board of appeals application for any 6-foot decorative metal fencing along West Maple Road, should that be an election by Oakland Hills as well. So with that, I know it's a brief overview, but I wanted to highlight the process as well as the standards for site plan review and special land use. I'll be happy to answer any questions, but I know you have a very thorough presentation to follow.
Before we get to that, there's one quick question from the DRB. The discussion was 14 feet or higher. One member wanted 20 feet, another group wanted 10, and then there was discussion of 12, but 10 to 12 meant 10. So we ended with 14 feet or higher to guarantee it was at least 12 to 14 feet. So that's why we were just curious. I heard it earlier and I thought maybe it was a mistake, but then we heard 10 to 12 again, and at the DRB it was supposed to be higher. It was supposed to be above 12, not 10 to 12.
We'll review the excerpt from the Design Review Board. It says being 10 to 12 feet in height.
It says that. We both just looked it up, and neither one of us remember that ever being what we agreed on.
Okay.
I was like, I never said that. He
Okay.
said, neither did I.
Okay,
I looked
then.
it up. So we see what you wrote.
Yes.
But we don't, we would probably have to want to see the video to see the discussion that happened.
Be happy
where we
to
had
do
one
that.
that wanted 20, they wanted 10, and we kind of agreed that it had to be above 12 to guarantee it was at least 12, not 10.
Okay.
So we'd like to do a replay on
For the
that.
evergreen screening?
Yeah, because the one member wanted it right away at 20, and we discussed going a little lower to 14. Because the 12 meant technically 10, because they're 10 to 12. So we might need some game footage from that.
Playback.
Yeah, a little playback, but
Little
that was the only
playback.
thing that we were both, that clued us both in pretty quick, but that was the only one.
Okay. No, be happy to do that. In fact, there might be even a recollection from the team, but that's what was at least prepared at the time. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
He's smiling. Who wants to come on?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Patti. Thank you, everybody. And in regards to the 12 to 14, we have no problem with that. And I honestly can't remember it, although I do remember that whatever we proposed wasn't acceptable. So. That's true. You know, it's been about a year and a half since the club burned down. And
Introduce yourself.
oh, I'm sorry. I was going to introduce everybody, but I'm Leo Savoy, and I'm here on behalf of Oakland Hills. And we've got a team here that I was going to introduce in a moment, but I'll do it right now. We've got our owner's rep, Scott Collins, here, and he basically handles all the interactions between the club, the architects, the designers, and the construction company. Then we've got Jim Stock here. He's with Newman Smith, along with John Murphy. He's here with Newman Smith. And we've got Mark Russell here. He's our landscape architect. He's with PEA. And Jim Butler, who's also with PEA, our civil engineer, he could not be here tonight. And so it's been about a year and a half, and we've worked diligently to get to where we are today. And I will tell you that I've had so many people say, why is it taking so long? And I tell people, you can't believe how complicated this is. Everything that we've gone through, and in fact, it is not taking long at all. It's putting everything, all the ducks in place to design the building, to do the landscaping, the infrastructure out there, moving sewer lines, storm sewers, water sewers, our storm sewers, sanitary sewers, all of these things come into play, and we all get it because we deal with it. And I will tell you that the departments here did just a phenomenal job working with us to get to where we are tonight, and we're excited about where we are because it's been a process, and we want you to see. Many of you have seen it already, either at the Design Review Board, at the Zoning Board of Appeals, at the Planning Commission, and Jim is going to walk you through everything. And then at that point, if there's any questions, anything you want us to address, we'll be more than happy to do that. So with that, Jim, and if he drags on too long,
Yeah,
just,
that might happen.
Give him the hook, because he likes talking, he likes pointing, but we'll be.
No pressure. Board of Trustees, thank you for hearing us tonight. Okay, let's get started. So quickly, Patti did a great job explaining. She kept saying we have an in-depth presentation, but I think she topped us on this. But we're going to talk about the existing site plan tonight and show you where we were and how we improved. So from there, we're going to go to the proposed. Talk about the clubhouse floor plans, show you what's inside the building as well. Review the clubhouse elevations and renderings. Then we'll move into the lifestyle building floor plans and elevations, go into greens and grounds, and lastly, building materials. So with that, so just a little bit of I don't know why there's a lot of W's there. That's a mistake. Apologize for that. But this is back in fall of 2001, and I just wanted to point out the structures on the site. So going from the western portion of the site, we have the golf course learning center here. We have the tennis and pool building, former clubhouse location, and I'll tell you that we position the new clubhouse in the exact same corner that you see here today. This is the lifestyle building, and you'll see we reconfigured the paddleball courts that happen here, the existing greens and grounds facility and environmental building, and then, as Patti pointed out, the existing residential home on the eastern portion of the site. But one thing I wanted to point out was how the site worked back in fall of 21. So the blue line represented deliveries. So every day, food came in, linens came in, trash came out of this area here. The magenta line represents golf carts. So golf carts originated in the golf cart storage building. So every day, golf carts were taken out of the building. They passed through the parking lot, parallel to the truck delivery, all the way over to the practice range, and then back over and across the bridge to the north course. And additionally, you had vehicular pedestrian conflict that happened here. So people parking in the parking lot, going to the tennis and pool building, going to play tennis, they had to cross those conflict points. Additionally, we had valet service. So starting at the front door, they came out of the site, they made a right turn onto Maple Road, and a left turn into the parking area here. So it was the desire of Oakland Hills to really start to separate these modes of traffic and make the site inherently safer. So this is where we are today, as Ms. Voelker pointed out. So again, golf learning center, tennis, the existing clubhouse in that same exact spot, the lifestyle building, and then we combined the environmental and greens and ground into one building called the Greens and Grounds building here, and then again the existing residential home to the eastern side of the site. And so this is what we proposed. The golf carts were moved out of the First Tee building to the lower level of the clubhouse, and we actually have a golf cart passageway through here. So you're able to grab a cart, bring it over to the driving area, and when you go to the north course or onto the south course, you no longer travel through a parking lot, you no longer have that pedestrian vehicular conflict happening here. Secondly, it was a desire of the clubs to remove the delivery, the trash portion of the project away from the clubhouse in particular. So here, as pointed out, we do have our receiving area. So all receiving, all deliveries, all trash pickup happens in this portion of the building here. They come in off of Maple Road and use this 26-foot wide service drive to get to this area, which is screened not only from an 8-foot high masonry screen wall, but also with vegetative screening along Maple Road. So you're asking, so how do I get to the clubhouse to the lifestyle building? We actually have a service tunnel, a 20-foot wide service tunnel connecting both those buildings. So think of it like Disney. Everything is below grade, and employees and deliveries and any trash originating from the clubhouse comes out through that tunnel into the lifestyle building, and then is picked up and taken off site. Additionally, we looked at the valet service. So again, the center of the building is, or the main entrance of the building is here. Cars are taken off site. They make a right turn onto Maple Road, a right turn into the new valet lot happening here, and on the return, they don't even go onto Maple Road. We're actually able to get back onto the service drive. We have a little connector kind of snaking through right here, and then back to the front entry. So we've made the site safer from a vehicular pedestrian standpoint, but also from a valet standpoint as well. Next, we talked about the fence, and this just highlights the area that the fence did exist, and we heard you, the fact that the fence is going away. But I also wanted to show the fact that we have looked at this from making a complete visual screening now, not only from Oak Hills Drive here all the way to the entrance, So that's brand new, 8-foot-high arborvitae. We keep going towards the east as I cycle through some of these slides, down past paddleball courts, down past the valet lot. This area are existing trees, so we left those alone. Past this entrance here, we're continuing east to the Greens and Grounds facility where the arborvitae do stop, and this is where we come into question of those, the Norway spruce, whether they're 10, 12, 14, or 18 feet high, we'll determine that. But we have it not only along Maple Road, but then we continue them south toward next to the building, separating the existing residential structure and the Greens and Grounds building. And then this also shows the application of the burning bush along Lassa Road, and I think there's only 371 of those, so just a few. 321, sorry. Moving inside, we start to see right down the middle of the lower level, we have our cart passageway. This is our indoor golf cart storage. We have some indoor storage for food and freezers and things like that. We have staff areas located here. This big blue area is one of 3 kitchens in the building. And then we get into the admin portion of the building here, and the gray areas are mechanical rooms, things of that nature. Upstairs, almost paralleling the cart passageway, we have a hallway called Heritage Hall, and that separates the public areas of the building that look out over the golf course itself. We still have the famous veranda in the middle of the building here. We have the golf shop located to the north of the building. Another administrative function located here. The entrance is in virtually the same exact spot as it was a year and a half ago. We have another kitchen located here serving these member-facing spaces, and then the oranger spot we have one level of the men's locker room. Moving up, we have the ballroom spaces that again look out over the golf course. We have the women's locker room located in this portion of the building here. The event kitchen happening on the second floor, and then the second level of the men's locker room in this location here. And then various elevated patios looking out over the golf course as well. I wanted to show you the roof plan, and it is Ms. Voelker explained, we have pitched roofs on the building, but what we've created here is what we call our mechanical well. And you can see these are the mechanical units on the roof, and literally these are as long as a bus. They're like over 50 feet long, and so it was really important to us to hide those appropriately within the building, and I'll show you how we did that in just a moment. But what I also wanted to show is some archival photography of the building itself, and it was the desire of the clubhouse to replicate nearly to a T what was lost over a year and a half ago. So you can start to see the famous veranda, which was a goal of ours to replicate moving forward. These are some renderings. So I'm looking west towards the veranda. If I've walked down the first fairway, I'm looking back towards the west. And you can start to see we're picking up much of the aesthetic that was lost months ago. This is coming up 18, looking to the northwest. You can start to see really the 3 levels now of the clubhouse, because it's kind of set into a hill. And this is where we do have that Michigan split-face fieldstone. This is an image looking back towards the main entrance to the building here. This is another member entrance here called the Hagen entrance. And then this is an image of what presents to you when you first arrive onto site. This is the golf shop here. In the background here, you can start to see the porte-cochere of the main entrance. And we've taken some time to develop some renderings in a higher level of detail. You can start to see the architectural detailing that was so important to the club to really replicate in a close manner. And then really creating the grandeur that was lost a few months ago within this building. These are the elevations that we have here. Of course, it's a little tough to see an architectural drawing elevation. That's why the renderings are so effective. But this is our building section, and what I wanted to explain is, we do have a portion of the building that's actually buried. This is the cart passageway, and we have our first floor happening here. This is a stairway, but we can start to see one of the reasons why the building's a little taller than previous is the fact that we had to hide these mechanical units on the roof, so that started to drive some of the roof pitches. But it was important for us that those mechanical pieces are not seen from ground level. Now we move into the lifestyle building, the upper floor plan. Here, this turns into a small fitness area with men's and women's locker rooms here. We still have the outdoor area here. Of course, we have temporary structures here, which will, of course, be removed at the completion of the project. The lower level, you start to see where that service tunnel kind of comes into the portion of the building here, and this is further storage and receiving for various goods that need to be refrigerated and dry storage and housekeeping storage and things like that happen within the lower level of this building. This is the a paddle court lounge that remains unaffected. I think I might have skipped one. Nope. So this starts to show the evidence of our screen wall that we're creating, kind of screening that receiving area that we have on the north side of the building there. You start to see this portion of the building that we're removing because of the construction of the service tunnel as it punches in underground to the lower level of the lifestyle building here. And so we are looking at replicating this side of the building now to exactly match what happens on the east side of the building. And you can see that construction going away right there, so we're basically removing that porte-cochere from that building. We move to the Greens and Grounds facility floor plan. There is a small office area and locker room facility here for the staff. We have a repair portion of the building. We have what they call the cold storage. That's where all the equipment is stored. And then rounding out this building, we have the environmental center of the building with fertilizers and chemicals and things like that. Again, as Ms. Voelker explained, we tried to keep this building as low as possible, but once you raise a mower on a lift, that requires a certain overhead clearance so they can maintain those vehicles properly. But the roof and the wall panels of this building are proposed to be painted in a dark green called Essex green. And the whole idea of this building is to make this really recede into the background and make it go away. We have developed a site section through the building itself from Maple Road through the building looking east. So you can start to see where the road is in elevation to the building itself and what the view corridor starts to look like at the north side of Maple Road and the south side of Maple Road. And this does admittedly show trees that are 10 to 12 feet tall planted. And this is the height after 3 years. Conservatively, these trees grow about 24 inches per year, just as an FYI. Materials on the clubhouse building primarily, we have the poly ash lap siding, and that's a thicker product to produce a nicer shadow line on the building. We have buff limestone as trim pieces. Again, that split face Michigan fieldstone. The trim boards most likely will be either poly ash or an AZEK type material. So rot isn't necessarily a problem. We have the extruded aluminum railing systems. We have fiberglass reinforced columns. We have heavy architectural dimensional asphalt shingles. For the lower portions of the roof on the building, we have standing seam metal roofs that are proposed to be made out of copper. Also using a copper for the gutters and downspouts. And then, again, to replicate what was lost many months ago, dark green polyurethane foam shutters, and then we have bluestone patio surfaces for the hard surfaces immediately surrounding the building itself. Two products we're using for the Greens and Grounds facility. We have, this is the metal wall panel, so it's a corrugated metal panel that's pre-finished in this dark Benjamin Moore Essex green, and then we have a standing seam roof system also painted in that same color, pre-finished. And that's it. Happy to take questions.
Before we do our questions, let's go ahead and do public comment then.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and open public comment. You can come on up, just introduce yourself and.
Okay, hi, everyone. I'm Jeanette Phillips, and I am a neighbor on Hills Drive on the north side, and also the president of our neighborhood association. It's called Oakland Hills Vistas. And Leo is a neighbor on the other side of Gilbert Lake Road. So here I go. I'm here today to ask for your support as you're about to approve an $80 million proposal by Oakland Hills Country Club to build a new clubhouse and make other major renovations to its non-golf course facilities. I ask that Oakland Hills, in partnership with Bloomfield Township, also review and make plans for immediate updates to the perimeter of the club where the greenery is out of control and choking the trees and grass that are buried underneath the vines that hang over the fence line, onto the trees and shrubs, over the retaining walls of the safety paths, in the power lines, and more. These vines have grown worse and worse over the years. OHCC has a huge staff of agronomists and landscape technicians who spend each day ensuring that the golf course grounds are pristine. While just on the other side of the fence, we have overgrown vines choking the life of mature trees and the grass that once was so nice. This perimeter is not up to the standards of our township residents expect and maintain their own yards to. Specifically, the vines and overgrowth need to be addressed on the Gilbert Lake Road, Maple Road just east of the club entrance, and on Oakland Street where the vines are in the power lines. I understand that this greenery may serve a purpose of blocking the club from the real world, but I would ask why. Covering the fence line may be a goal of OHCC, but it should not stretch out 3 to 5 feet from the fence line itself. 6 inches is more than enough to cover the fence and create privacy. I have included photos. I'm not sure if he can show them or not, but I have copies. I ask this board, our Township Safety Path staff, any OHCC representatives here, and its board of directors to drive Gilbert Lake Road tomorrow to see the overgrowth, out of control nature of these vines, and together with the township, make a plan to immediately improve and create a plan to maintain this eyesore just outside of the fence line of one of the most exclusive and beautiful golf courses in the country. I think keeping this perimeter looking good is a reasonable accommodation to being a good neighbor to the residents of the township for an organization that is a nonprofit and enjoys paying 0 in property taxes annually. Please help the township and your bordering residents by enhancing the appearance of this perimeter and the safety paths, keeping them safe and pretty. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so I have the photos in the document. I have 2 extra copies. So I'm happy to give one to Leo. I have one. Oh, you do already? Oh, you guys are great. Everybody has one?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please help us. And the barbed wire fence.
Okay.
Sorry.
Enough already.
Sorry. Okay.
Enough already.
Thank you so much. Is there anybody else from the public that wants to come up? We'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the board.
Okay, I'd be happy to start. This is my 4th opportunity to hear the presentation on the Oakland Hills project. And first of all, I want to thank everybody involved with Oakland Hills, because Dani, Martin, we were there right from the beginning at the Design Review Board, and to see the evolution and progress from that meeting to today shows that you've been very responsive. You've heard what the different boards have had to say. You've heard what the residents have had to say and their concerns. So I want to commend you on that. Also, just to be in agreement with Dani and Martin, yes, it is 12 to 14 feet.
Well, they said technically 12 was 10 to 12,
Well,
so we upped it
We upped it.
to 14.
A minimum height, so.
Yeah.
On the spruces, Norway spruces. Actually, the public comment was no different than what I was going to say anyway, because I'm very familiar with the area. I do not have the concerns on the vines on Maple, because there's a entirely new landscape plan on Maple, on Oak Hills, on Oakland, and now on Lazar. So that's certainly not a concern. And you've done a tremendous job on improving and making the landscape on the south course as magnificent as the architectural structure that you've developed. And so, again, commend you on that. However, I do have concerns, even though this is a south course presentation, just to make you aware, which you probably are, because you've heard it, but just to take into consideration the need to keep the Gilbert Lake Road plantings trimmed back, because they are. Certainly, I am in full agreement, and that's part of, I had my notes to discuss that anyway. They need a regular trim schedule on that. It really is a disservice to the appearance of the club and to the neighbors. So if you could do that, just to make sure that it's a regular scheduled maintenance, I think that would be better for you, and certainly better for the residents. Everybody would appreciate that. Also, just Leo's well aware of this, but the fact that you've been so responsive to removing the barbed wire and the fencing, that's something that's been extremely important personally to me for over 20 years, and certainly important to the surrounding neighbors. Again, it just enhances the beauty of the club that you've done that and are going to do that in some capacity, whether it's architectural fencing or additional landscaping. So again, I have nothing but just accolades for everything that you've done. And believe me, if I wasn't in agreement, as Leo knows me well enough, I'd be the first person to say something. So again, congratulations on a magnificent job.
Thank you.
So I have a few questions, and bear with me, because unlike the majority of this board, I'm not on ZBA, I'm not on Planning Commission, and I wasn't a fill-in on design review for Dani. So this is my first presentation of it. I remember the fire day. It was tragic that the building was lost. I'm sure this looks amazing. It'll be gorgeous. I do have a couple questions. One has to do with a public comment that we received. 3995 Oakland Drive, the resident talks in terms of golf balls in their front yard, their backyard, hit their house. And I guess I can understand that, you know, you live near a golf course, but if this is happening repeatedly, and with, like their point was, the improvement in, you know, the golf clubs and the, you know, the drive that you can do.
Who is the homeowner for that particular
I
one?
think Richardson, is it? Is it Richardson?
Donna Cunningham.
Cunningham, okay.
3995. She's right
it's
on
in
the
Oakland
corner.
and Oak Hills.
They're right on the corner there?
It's by the first tee. And the point was well made that not only if they're on both sides of their house, residents walking down the street, I mean, if there's this many golf balls leaving the course, you could hit someone. What can be done, as long as we're doing all this wonderful work on the clubhouse, is there something we can do at that first tee whether it's a
It's a
clear
driving-
mesh
it's the
or?
driving
Yeah, it's a driving range.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
and
not familiar with the club.
That's all right. So a couple things that are happening there. One, there is screening that is within that tree line there that has taken the bulk of what used to happen there. The previous owner would show up at the club with gallons or buckets of golf balls there. So that has alleviated some of it. The tee box is being moved back about another 20 yards on the easterly side of it. And so the plan is that anybody using drivers will be back over there and actually hitting a little to the east and not straight out. We do have errant shots. I know that to be the case. There's a lot of not. So
I didn't realize this was a driving range, I
Yeah.
thought it was the first tee. Again,
Yeah.
I'm not an Oakland Hills
no,
person.
I understand. So we're going back another 15 or 20 yards, and additionally, there is, I believe, coming before the ZBA is going to be an additional net that's going to be requested by a homeowner there. Not that particular one, that's why I asked which one, to alleviate that. So
I'm sure there's some, clear, obscure sort of netting that wouldn't be real visible, but would stop that from going into the residential area.
Yeah, we've got that, and the trees, as the trees grow, we put it up higher and higher, so it can't be seen by the residents there. And Neil, you live right there. You've had a few on yours as well. So every step of the way, we're taking whatever action we can to mitigate the issue.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, because to me, that's a big thing. That's a safety issue, and if we're doing all this work, why can't we make some adjustments?
You're absolutely right there.
Make it
Yes.
safer. So I only received the public comment. I didn't know the response. I appreciate that. There was another public comment talked about, they're concerned about drainage issues, and in the packet, it just said draining issues were not a concern. Are there draining issues that
Was that the letter from Mr. Weichel?
Possibly, yes. Yes,
so-
because I had about 3 of them. I
So
think.
after he came to the Zoning Board of Appeals and discussed a number of things there, and I sat down with him to go over all of the issues that he had. I think he had about 13 points, and we said that we would work together. I don't know if the drainage issue right there is as significant now that everything has been redone over the last 4 or 5 years. I know we do have one resident in the audience here that lives 2 houses, either 1 or 2 houses away from Mr. Weichel. And when you get some of the storms that we've had over the last couple of years, and they've been significant storms, Murray indicated it hadn't come up to his house, but kind of travels along there. And we can swale it, and that's what I explained to him. We'll look to do whatever. Our goal is to keep our water on our property. And so he said he'd just be more than happy to work with us. I wish he was here tonight, because I don't want to put words into his words coming out of my mouth, but we're
That's being addressed.
Yeah, we're committed to work with him, and as well as all the residents along there.
So then, and there's been many comments about the course is beautiful inside the building before. I've only been there one time before, unfortunately, the fire. The building and grounds is gorgeous. But when you drive down Maple Road, there's a lot of, just past the club there, there's a lot of riffraff that we all look at as we go by. And some of that's going to be addressed
I couldn't agree with you more.
by that Greens building. I know there's been some concerns because it's 20 feet tall. I guess I'm not sure why it needs to go quite that tall. I understand about lifts, but that you're going to be doing the better-looking fencing and make it more appealing all along Maple, because for what a beautiful place it is, it really doesn't have a good
You're
appeal.
100% correct. Yes.
Fencing will be removed and landscaped.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a great thing that you're taking the opportunity to improve, understandably, with the loss that you don't want to just replicate without being able
And
to
since
make
we're
it.
talking about fencing, and Jeanette brought that up there, although this is a South Course site plan approval here, we realize that that needs to be addressed too. And I had a conversation with the general manager when I first heard that your letter was coming in. I didn't know who, I didn't have a name to go with it until tonight. But he said, we will do the same kind of thing there. Our intent is on the north course there, eventually to get to that same situation. The fencing will be done 2 to 3 years out. But if you have any issues, all you need to do is call me, and I will make sure that it's addressed. I know I'm supposed to address to the board, I'm sorry. But
When you're saying yes to things, you can turn.
All right.
It's only when they get combative.
So let me give you an example that, Neil, what was the gentleman's name? Red
Frank.
What was the
Red Frank.
Frank. He lived right along Oak Hills Drive there, and he was objecting to the training center that was going to go in there. And I said to him, we will meet out there and those trees will go there. And we'll do the same with the neighbors here. If it's all overgrown, we'll take care of that. When some trees came down not too long ago, I specifically called the club and said, you got to get those off the fence. You got to get them off the safety path, and you've got to make sure that it's well maintained. And earlier this afternoon, our grounds crew was cutting the lawns there. They were blowing off the safety path. They were actually blowing off Gilbert Lake Road. So I think we do a pretty good job. Can we do a better job? Yes, we can.
Well, and I want to commend you on some of the improvements. I love what you're doing with the valley parking being internal, not across the road, and the underground so that you don't have carts going through parking lots. And there's some really nice, innovative changes. So,
and the big thing that it wasn't mentioned, it's with the kids that are being dropped off for the tennis, the swimming, or the junior golf, and they're going through all of that with all, and that's really been a major concern of ours for 20 plus years.
well, especially the trash service and the drop-offs that happen. And no, I think it's going to be beautiful, and look forward to coming over to see it.
Good. Thank you.
Just want to add anything?
Stephanie next, or?
Anyone else?
I'll just, as Trustee Murray said, it was a sad day when the club was lost. And I'm glad that the club decided to model the reconstruction on the previous site. But also, as Trustee Murray said, I like that there were these new features that improved the site. So you still got the classic look, but you got some really cool new features. I like that, the fence is obviously a big deal. I haven't sat in on some of the DRB meetings or anything like that, but I've been briefed on the progress. So I appreciate all the work that you put into it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just a couple of thoughts. I want to go back to the fencing. I know you said that the fencing is planned to come out, but there was a notation that perhaps if there was fencing, it would be the decorative type of fencing. So we may be coming back to the ZBA and the DRB to discuss fencing in the future.
Correct.
Correct.
My only, point. One of the points we made at DRB, it would be the where that fence is relative to the greenery that's being planted.
I think the fence needs to be inside the greenery and not outside the greenery.
Thank you.
In my understanding through I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's all right.
My understanding when it was presented to the Planning Commission and that was discussed, and that was part of one of the conditions that which they agreed to, was that the landscaping would be on the maple side of the
Outside of the
fencing.
fence.
Yeah, public side.
Yep.
Okay, great.
That's great.
Yeah, that was something we talked about at DRB too, and just wanted to go back. Since fencing may be on the table, I just want to be clear that at least when I'm at DRB, I'll expect to see it that way. I'm glad to hear
Yeah,
that's
very
already the
minimum, the
plan.
fence is coming out. If we have to come back,
Which is
then you'll
great.
have another bite at the apple.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, good. As you can tell, and our comments at DRB mostly focused on the view of the citizenry of the club from Maple, with the request the DRB had to put in higher plantings, the Norway spruces or Norway pines at a higher level right off, so that we're not sort of waiting for them to grow a few years, even though they will grow quickly. But that's a great addition. The idea of taking the fence out, I think that's wonderful. The concession that if the fence is back on the table, that it's going to be behind the shrubbery, that's perfect. I appreciate your commitment to cleaning up on the north course as well on the outside. I don't know, I mentioned the DRB, something that I witnessed when driving around, which was a lot of the grounds golf carts were using the safety path. Did you have a chance to look into that at all since the DRB meeting?
When I was over there today, and I mentioned it to Matt Dossie, the general manager, and I haven't seen it as much. Sometimes late in the afternoon, early evening, with the employee parking lot on the north side, they go across the bridge and down to drop some employees off at their car. When I was over there today and noticed golf carts, the golf carts, they were all, at least today, coming in from the backside and coming in to the Hayner House, which is our administrative offices right now. So they're aware of it. If you see it, it becomes an issue, call me, we'll address it.
I mean, they shouldn't ever be there even once. If I see it, I'll mention it again, but
Okay.
thanks for the effort on that to, to keep them on the right side of that. Because I noticed too that with the interior driveway, there's going to be a lot more space for them to traverse back and forth along the club there on the inside of the fence line.
Yep.
Okay. That's it. So yeah, thank you.
And mine will be short and sweet because I've gotten to say it many times, but I agree, this did not take very long. When I think about how long it takes to even pick handles with just 2 people involved on a house, I can't imagine how you got all those people together this fast to go through a grieving process, to go through a what should we do process, and to rebuild what you're building is beautiful. It is an homage to what you had, but like Michael and Val have said, it has also got some really cool, neat features. You did an amazing job.
And we're not even to the handle part yet. So we got a little ways to
That
go.
could take a while.
That's why.
I don't even know how you made the decisions you did. Yeah, but I think you did an amazing job bringing it so quickly, and to watch the way I did watch on the planning on video, and you absolutely had already addressed what we said, and then at planning you already addressed that at the ZBA, and to see how quickly you'll respond to a request. That's why I think you're getting there so fast, is you understand that you're part of the community. It's beautiful, it's amazing, and you want it to flourish too. So I thank you for everything you did, because it's going to be amazing.
Can I ask, how soon do we think we would get to a groundbreaking? I mean, I know you still have some more hurdles to go through, but what is your goal?
We're hoping that we can put a shovel in the ground mid-November.
Awesome.
So, and we could start putting the foundation in. A lot of that's going to be with.
I was going to say,
Not to put any pressure.
we haven't made that ask yet.
But they've already scheduled meetings starting next week with the entire building department, the Road Commission of Oakland County, the Water Resource, so that hopefully we can start staging, planning, and all of that. But that's going to be as complicated or more complicated than just getting us to where we are today, and we understand that.
It's what, a 2 or 3 year project? 3 or 2? Wishful thinking too?
I think we'll be very, very fortunate to have it completed the 4th quarter of 2025. And it's probably more realistically April of 2026. But we're going to shoot for that 2025 date.
And I just got one more. And I thank you for the fencing. That is amazing how quickly you all responded to that as well. I understand the need for security to make sure you also keep people off the grounds late at night with the way that, especially sometimes kids will even play around, and I understand why you need it. And I'm also thankful that you'll be following the on the outside, the public side for the fence, and for the 14 or higher with the, I just want to make sure to get that in there for the replay. For 14 feet or higher, because then within 3 years, if it's 2 feet a year, you're going to be at.
You got your 20 feet.
in the motion.
Thank you.
Well, but
It's already taken.
it's especially important, though, to get that 14 feet, because you might say they grow 2 feet a year, but I know I do my own landscaping. The first year, I planted some green giants last year. My neighbor goes, "How come it didn't grow?" And I said, "Well, it's just been the first 12 months, and next year it'll probably take off. It's not dead. I didn't kill it." So, but the first year, when you transplant, it always sets things back a little bit. So that's why we like that 14 feet.
Yeah. And then did you have one more?
I was just curious about during the extensive construction period, what sort of safety thoughts or arrangements you have with regard to continuing the operations there for golfing and events and so forth.
You have another couple of hours to go?
This is a big part of the plan, but we haven't heard anything about that. But
Yeah, no, so the intent to sit with departments starting next week is to talk through that staged plan. We have a plan, a concept of, when specific buildings need to go to make construction the safest possible during construction.
But I think what he's asking in terms of member operation, golf operations, things like that.
all the same time.
And
It'll all happen.
it'll be separated. The North Course parking lot for golfers will hopefully that they will park over there and then come across the bridge to get to the facilities. The main entrance is going to be a partial construction entrance and then partial for the swimming and tennis, and it'll be blocked off, coned off, so that it will be safe. But you're absolutely right, we're addressing that.
When in doubt, hand out hard hats
itself
on
will
the
be
parking lots.
The construction site itself will be completely fenced internally, so there won't be access there beyond a gate.
Okay, thank you. And of course, you'll be working with our departments and making sure that everything's,
Yes.
safety's always top of their mind too, and as it is, I know yours, so thanks.
Unless there's any other comments, I'd look for a motion.
Make a motion. Again, compliment you for the landscape, the dense landscaping I know you're going to have from Oak Hills all the way east to at least the Hayner House and everything else you're doing on Lazar. I can't emphasize enough how you have been so responsive, and the landscaping is going to be as beautiful as the clubhouse. So thank you for doing that. It's a value for everybody. With that said, make a motion that we approve the Oakland Hills project as presented, with the addition of making sure that the Norway spruces are at least 12 to 14 feet.
No, don't say the word 12, because 10 to 12.
Yeah.
What are you, 14 or higher?
14 or higher, there you go. Okay, 14 or higher as planted.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing the project begin.
I'd like to give support.
Motion by trustee Barnett, support by trustee Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
Is this approving both the site plan and the special land use? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we have support by trustee Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
We
very much.
appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for
Thank you.
everything.
Great. So next we have to consider approval of the Senior Services American Rescue Plan Act grant contract with our director, Christine Tvaroha.
Okay, good evening. Thank you. I do not have PowerPoint presentations for these. I feel fairly simple. So starting with the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, they approved $5 million, part of their ARPA allocation, to support senior center enhancements across the county, and we were fortunate to be awarded $150,000. Of course, we were told to ask for the moon, and we did, but we were very happy to get the $150,000. We did propose a number of possible projects in the grant application, and as it turns out, with the excuse me, the amount that they were able to give us, it is definitely a distinct priority to replace the deteriorating parking lot at the senior center. The matching funds are available within the senior services fund balance. And just, I guess, an update, Since the application, we've had several possibilities for outdoor equipment pop up. So we are researching those along with Jose, so that's excellent.
Fingers crossed, another grant.
Yep, that's right. And actually, that's a much more appealing project for someone to fund than a parking lot, which I'm sure you would all agree with. Also, some smaller items that were written up have also been taken care of in this year's fiscal year. So like staff training and some computer upgrades we were able to do within this year's budget. So it's not really a loss, and I think it is the wisest to do the parking lot. I'm not sure if you were able to see the scope of work, Exhibit B, that was submitted just today, but that will be handed in when the agreement is executed. And so tonight I would like to know if you have any questions, or if you would like to, of course we're asking for you to approve the agreement so that we can accept the funds and work on the project next fiscal year.
Does anyone have any questions for Christine? I'd look for a motion.
I would make a motion that we approve the $150,000 grant award for the senior center.
Motion by trustee Murray. Support by trustee Faki. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes.
Thank you so much.
Oh, that's a quick one.
Yeah, I told you they'd be quick. So, and this is now moving on to the next.
So I
Okay.
just have to announce it's the introduce
please.
the, he makes me legally do things. So next we have introduced community development block grant with the application process for 2024 to set the public hearing for the October 23rd, 2023 board meeting.
Very long title. So many of you know that we've been managing this program for almost 15 years, along with the support of our friends in planning and building. We've invested over like $750,000 in the community, assisting low-income seniors with essential home repairs, and the service, of course, enhances their safety and their independence. The block grant funding is also critical for Meals on Wheels. Seniors with mobility challenges receive nutritionally balanced meals, a safety check, and a social connection with our wonderful volunteers. And with your support, we'll continue these services in what's called Program Year 2024. The estimated planning allocation is $50,000 combined for both of those services, and they will principally benefit low and moderate income persons and senior citizens. The program details and impacts will be presented at the public hearing, prior to the public hearing, which of course we're requesting for Monday, October 23rd. And I believe that you have a recommendation. I'm also can answer any questions.
Any questions for Christine? I'd look for a motion.
Well, I'd like to say that this is a fabulous program that you do, and it's very worthwhile, and I would make the motion that we approve the development block grant application for 2024.
Motion by trustee Murray.
Or are we
And schedule
setting the
Yeah.
public hearing date for October?
Correct, right. The application, that's when I'll ask for your approval on the application.
All right.
Yep.
Support.
So motion by trustee Murray, support by trustee Barnett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. So we'll set that hearing for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
You too.
So next, we have presentation of requests for proposals for the police station and fire station number 3 renovation project. We have both chiefs. We have Chief James Gallagher, and we have Chief John LeRoy.
I got to thank him for making their patch a little bigger. The last one he showed me was a fire truck and a
John,
police
you don't want
badge.
to talk first because you'll never get a word in.
No, he was going to be. Listen, that's why he wants me to talk.
There you go.
Welcome back. Do I have control of this? I'm going over here. Just a little bit of a recap on where we came and how we got to the space needs assessment. Back in September of '22, we came before the board in the study session and talked about our needs of our agencies. At that time, both building and planning made comments, and then now retired IT director Gail Sadler talked about the needs of the police department and how we've really outgrown our spaces, and they've also outgrown their spaces within their area of needs downstairs. And with that, our building currently, the way it sits, has been remodeled or added on to as a whole township. So one of the things that we decided or needed in the police agency at the time was the expansion of our dispatch center. We have outgrown the current space that we're in there now. we're unable to offer services, or if we wanted to offer services to the surrounding jurisdictions to provide services for dispatch, we would not be able to do that at this time. Our locker rooms, both male and female, men's and women's locker rooms, are over 30 years old. The majority of them, our lockers, are in need of repair. We're unable to locate parts now. And worse off, in our women's locker room, when the station was built many years ago, or even added on to, the locker rooms were not, and we're at capacity right now. I think we have one open women's locker right now. So we have 3 or 4 in our hiring process as we go, so that'll be a challenge moving forward. And then in addition to that, we have anywhere up to 10 females in our building at a time. We have 1 shower and 1 bathroom stall for them outside. In the actual locker room, we have additional independent ones in the station. So that was what we brought back to us from our angle. With that, unfortunately, the scope of our project will affect possibly the rest of the police department.
Station 3 was also discussed as part of those ARPA discussions back in the study sessions, and to take a look at the possible replacement of that station, which was built in 1960, added on in 1978, and has had no significant upgrades since that date. The dorms were added on, not added on to, but subdivided by fire personnel to make them male-female compliant about 5 years ago. And now we're retrofitting, we're buying apparatus to fit into the station instead of having a station that can house any apparatus. It's going to significantly, when ladder 1 becomes up to replace, we can't rotate it back to reserve status because it only fits in central fire. It doesn't fit in any other fire station. And we need to bring it up to the current standards, safety standards that are recommended for cancer presumption and station design for the health and safety of the firefighters as well. So, and another thing is that the reserve apparatus, we are out of storage space for reserve apparatus, equipment, the boat, and things of that nature. And we're running out of the flexibility of being able to move apparatus to different stations.
So that brought us to the community survey that went out, and there was a strong interest when we put it out to our residents of what the needs were within the township, and I know police and fire was one of those areas where the residents felt was important. So after the approval of the board and moving forward, the board gave us permission to move forward with an RFP for a space needs assessment for both Station 3 and for the police department remodels, or proposals on what the architects think are the best options for us. The RFP was posted to June 12th to our Mitten website, with a deadline for the proposal to be returned to us on July 27th of this year. Obviously, tonight we're here for the presentation to get the awarding or the approval to move forward with that space needs assessment and award the contract to who we selected. And then hopefully the anticipated contract startup date would be here in the near future. October 2nd is what we put into the RFP. So some of the evaluations that we went through will be based on, and these were also listed in that RFP, was qualifications and experience of the firm, including the ability to develop an SNA and a design documents. So there was 2 scopes to our RFP, which was the space needs assessment and then some kind of design documents for us. The qualification and experience of key personnel, and when we say key personnel, majority of these agencies also subcontract to other architects or builders or assessment in their assessments. It was important for us to know that they had some kind of specialty in the police and fire business. Past experience and references, who we talked to some of the other municipalities around us who have used these individuals or these companies, and then project approach and understanding the cost proposal. We received 6 proposals back. The 3 that we received was from BKV Architectural Group, who had a total value of $81,420 with a maximum of $8,150 in reimbursement expenses, which was, if there was any mileage reimbursement, copies, plannings, flights, et cetera, for any of their people. DLZ was another firm at $68,000. Tellurus Architectural Firm, $111,000 to $123,000. That depended on the scope of like plans with building drawings. of our current buildings. Williams Architect was 48,000, AEW was 40,000, and Redstone was 91,665. Going through the results, we had 3 firms that did not submit complete proposals, including scopes 1 and 2. Some of the firms had done really, from what their proposal showed, really done probably some nice work in surrounding communities. They just didn't include the entire cost proposal for the scopes 1 and 2. The firms evaluated on experience with similar projects in police and fire buildings, and then discussions with local municipalities and experiences with different firms. We recommended, after going through everything and speaking with our command staffs, that we select Redstone Architects. Redstone is local here in Bloomfield Township, Dan Redstone, and when we first brought this about, in just trying to get an idea, they were very, very responsive to us. His team actually came here with with not even expecting to get awarded but just to help us out and kind of guide us and walk us through what a process for space needs assessment would even look like. But they've been around since 1937, obviously a Michigan-based firm. They're highly experienced in municipal projects. They have done the majority of the projects around us, and their completeness of their RFP it really left us with no questions. We had the opportunity to share it with building and planning, and Patti helped us a lot with that and gave us her, kind of went through the RFPs, the ones that we thought we'd select, and she was really helped us greatly and I thank her for that, with recognizing the firms that were included with Redstone, how much they've worked with the township, and they have their, the knowledge and experience of what we expect around here. So that was the cost of about $91,665 with them. There was additional cost for the board to discuss. Again, that was for Station 3 and the police department as it sits now. There's additional costs if desired. So Mr. Redstone walked around with us into the township offices and into the back where Patti's offices are, building and planning, and PBO is back there. It's my opinion when we're going through this, it's worthwhile probably to have them do the entire building. And that $10,000 would be extra on top of that 91 to have them do that, but that'll be a board decision. There was additional for structural and then mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, should the studies confirm the existing building can accommodate the space needs assessment. Again, that's additional costs onto that 91. And then the site evaluation for a new police building or partial relocation of some of the township offices, if this building can't hold it, would be that other $10,000 to $15,000. And that would be them analyzing our current site that our properties sit on, and telling us where something like in the future, something could go of that nature. So again, those are things that we would have to discuss, but that does not include it in that $91,000 for those 3 additional areas. And that includes both police and fire.
We chose to submit one RFP, and with the opportunity of hopefully working with one architectural firm and group instead of potentially having two opposing viewpoints and groups. So we submitted one RFP jointly to simplify it and for the township and hopefully moving forward.
Any questions?
No, just a comment that I'm not surprised that you picked Redstone after looking at the candidates, just because they are so strong in the municipal area as far as having the expertise in municipal buildings, fire, public safety, and I'm familiar with their work, and they are outstanding. So I think it's a great choice.
And there was many of the others were just new into the game, right? So we had that foundation to go with.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it shows in the RFP that we saw in the packet that this firm is very specialized in this type of thing, and I say go with the experts, and it seems to be that they are the experts, so I completely agree with your recommendation.
Yeah, I agree with what Trustee Faki said, that going through the packet was so thorough. And I mean, this is a very specialized thing that you guys do. I mean, fire safety, police safety. We don't want to bargain hunt and not do it right the first time.
I wanted to add something too that you brought separate to us, which makes sense. So when I was thinking about how you're areas got looked over in 2008, it's because they were very focused on, we're just going to fix these and we'll someday get to these. Whether it was the 60s, the 70s, or even it wasn't township campus, so Fire Station 3 wasn't thought of. You are on township campus. I'm not sure how this building wasn't thought of, but it's one of those things that's proof that we're 15 years later and we still haven't gotten back to thinking about it. So the one thing I will say is, if you were to look at those extras of the township offices, if you were to move, how does that affect township offices? Meaning, if you're, one of the things we tried to apply for a grant on was this new building. We couldn't be shovel ready because we didn't have plans. What if they come up with these great plans for us and now you've moved out and we never thought about what would we do with that station down there? So would they be willing to kind of work it where they give plans for that building, and then if that building is ever approved and given an earmark, that how would they do the township offices now if you stay here, and now and future if you were to leave?
I think that's the whole purpose of the SNA, is to determine whether that is even feasible. And I think you're right, this building has been added on to multiple times, but this is the original building. We still have areas downstairs where our IT department and I look at Patti's area, right? There's, we have 20 employees almost now back there in a not even such a small, I mean, they're on top of each other. We have areas where in the township, because there's old fire bays, that we can't even get electrical wiring or stuff to our dispatch center because the bricks go up to the ceiling levels. It's all hidden. We wouldn't know that, but we know that with the reception and things we get in the station. So I think but that's included, I believe, in that whole cost.
And it would be kind of the 10,000 would see it of how would it be, how would it affect PBO, because your changes definitely affect your neighbor downstairs, but also if you move your admission or administration from upstairs to downstairs, now there's this area back here of what do we do with. So as long as they're willing to do kind of two different versions of if you stay here versus if we were granted a new building.
That's in there. That's that whole bottom portion of, again, is if we have to do a whole new site evaluation. So we again, that 91,000 includes just the SNA for the police department and the fire department, the space needs assessment. In the event we would have to come back, or you can approve now earmarking that other additional money in the event we need it. But that'll be up to a board decision, I believe.
I think since some things did come in lower than we thought, we do have some to go with, that it would be nice to have it done all at once.
And the township officers includes your area, Martin's area, this whole area down for.
I'm more worried about all of that.
Yeah.
Well, we are too, but unfortunately the whole thing was one whole building, and so to have that extra while we have the ARPA funds may just be an option for you. That's to consider.
If you want to make mine smaller, you can, but I don't need bigger. So
no, it would just be, we talk about it all the time. We're running out of space, right? Martin needs space for his elections. We have our training rooms down there. That training room down there was earmarked for the police department, but we use it for everything now because we just have no space. Training rooms and training centers and things of that nature, we can't ask for right now.
I like that you brought that idea there of, I know this is what you all told us to look for, but we looked outside the box and saw that there was some future thinking that we could come up with.
And Mr. Redstone was part of it.
Mr. Redstone included these in the RFP because that's what he saw when he spent his significant amount of time here looking at it prior to the bidding on the project.
How much did we allocate? I don't remember off the top of my head from the ARPA funds.
We haven't done any allocation. We estimated about 75.
I have it as we estimated about 85,000 for the two projects.
So it was, but we've had some that we originally thought were going to be hundreds of thousands that are coming in much lower. So there's some definite wiggle room much larger than that if we were to expand this one out, it would still not affect so much the Chapter 20 drain or the other ones that are kind of out there.
And that's why Stephanie, when we originally asked him, we told him to focus on those two areas, but we walked him through the others just so he had an idea of, what he was looking at.
And to give the trustees some idea what we're talking about with the extra building, since we can't ever talk outside these walls, you probably are wondering, what on earth are they talking about? But there are these earmarks have come back. I believe they call them community funding projects, but they're earmarks where if you have a specific project, you are shovel ready, you own the land, you have architectural designs ready, you can go. And we had wanted to rethink, we obviously have an equity problem with recruiting. We can't recruit females in either one very well. We also have the men that are there deserve better as well. So it's affected our recruiting when people see our facilities, but also the safety of officers, to be able to have a much safer building. So the parking area out here where the patrol cars are would be the area that we're talking about. EOC, we've talked about having a different area there because there is bad. And where we have the EOC, it is a little bit sketchy on the service
Yeah.
because of the old
Hopefully,
building.
yeah.
So we were envisioning here on campus, we have the space. Let's think about how the new world could work. But we applied and we're told, too bad you don't have any architectural drawings. Because they did do, I think, 13 million for somebody else's building.
Yeah.
10 million for, I mean, these are $5 million to $20 million grants that could pay the whole building, which is also why we want the Fire Station 3, because it was outside of ARPA. We thought we'd have enough. John went to some things, found out it was what, 12 to 14 million?
In the last 3 years, it's basically doubled in price.
Right.
Yeah, and just as a recruiting thing as well, and unfortunately, that's what nowadays everyone's looking for, right? But like White Lake's in the process of getting a new station. Northville Township's getting a new, looking at a new station. West Bloomfield just had a major upgrade. Troy just had major upgrades to all, both police and Royal Oak. I mean, I don't want to say it's the hot topic, but everyone's starting to recognize that these buildings are, I mean, ours is probably one of the oldest. We've maintained it very well.
It's not just the frills, it's the safety. When you
Yes.
talk about this, going with John and others to these new facilities, they immediately take off the carcinogens, put them there. It's not in there. Ours is, it's not safe where they are right now, and it's our busiest. Fire Station 3 is our busiest one.
Yeah.
And to be honest, when my dad passed over 20 years ago, it's in worse shape now than it was then. I mean, when I go in there, it's not only has it not changed, it's worse. And the men and women that work there and the men and women here, they just deserve better. So it would be great if we had these, that we could put them out. Every year there's from federal and state grants that are now offering these if you're shovel ready. So these, to me, to spend at most $50,000 more to be able to apply for $12 million grants and higher, that seems like an easy spend for me.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. I think it's a
Yeah.
good use of the funds because it's just seed money for potential large grants in the future. Unless there's anything else, I'm ready to make a motion.
Anyone else? No? All right.
Make a motion that we agree the recommendations by the chiefs of Redstone Architects for $91,665, and in addition, the $10,000 for the township offices, $25,000 for structural, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and $10,000 to $15,000 site evaluation for a new police building or partial relocation of some of the township offices.
We have a motion by Trustee Barnett,
Support.
support by Treasurer Schostak. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you. And we'll make sure that Mr. Redstone understands that timeline on the ARPA funding as well.
Yeah.
That has to be spent before, and those, things need to be done. So we'll have more on that. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for both of you for your hard work. All right. So next we'll go on to considering the approval of purchasing new automated external defibrillators, AEDs, for all campus AEDs. And we have our fire chief.
Thank you. This year, we've analyzed the AED project that we started almost 20 years ago here in the township. The AEDs that we currently have reached their life expectancy. And as of 2020, June 30th of 2020, they are no longer being able to be serviced. No parts are being made for them. And we broke it down this year and we budgeted to plan to replace them. We've limped them through to this point. The batteries, we've maintained them very well. We replaced the pads, we replaced the batteries. And now they've just reached their end of life, and there's nothing else we can really do about it. So tonight I'd come before you to ask to purchase new AEDs for the township. And what we've done with our AEDs is there's two manufacturers that we were looking at to provide the services which are compatible with our LifePak 12s, or excuse me, LifePak 15s. And they were both relatively comparative in price, and Stryker Corporation, who is our current manufacturer of all of our AEDs in the township, and they are the manufacturer of our LifePak cardiac monitors that all of our ALS ambulances and engines carry. So the new machines will talk to the new packs, and the pads are compatible and everything like that. So my recommendation is that we purchase 13 AEDs to replace all of the current ones that are housed in the emergency cabinets throughout the township in this fiscal year.
Do you have any questions? I look for a motion.
I would like to make the motion.
It was in the budget, right? This is
It's
already
a budgeted item, yes.
That was my only question.
Okay. I would like to make the motion to approve the purchase of the 13 new AEDs. It's critical life-saving items, and I'm glad you brought this to us because it's important that we have functioning AEDs.
Motion by trustee Murray,
Support.
support by trustee McKee. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so next we have approved payroll and vouchers for September 11th. I'll have a chance to look them over unless there's any questions. I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Barnett,
Support.
support by trustee McKee. And all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. Next, we have consider entering into a closed session pursuant to MCL 15.2681H to discuss material exempt from discussion or disclosure by state and federal statutes, specifically an attorney-client privilege written letter, legal opinion. And we'll do roll call for this one, correct?
Yes, right.
So moved.
Oh, sorry. Motion to go into session by Treasurer Schostak,
Support.
support by trustee Murray.
And
roll
the
call vote.
Trustee McKee,
Yes.
Treasurer Schostak,
Yes.
Trustee Murray,
Yes.
Trustee Barnett,
Yes.
Clerk Brooke, yes.
And I'm a yes.
Supervisor Walsh,
Yes. So we will
we'll be back.
be back. All right. In session, thank you everyone for waiting for us. And we have one last motion to adjourn.
We adjourn.
Motion by Clerk Brooke,
Support.
support by trustee Barnett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. Thank you.